Let's get busy.
Dan, Kim, and Kenny. Actually, we had 3Ks here until Dan showed up. So 3Ks, which is, that's another story. But welcome, guys.
How you doing?
I am proud to say, happy to say, that I'm on the ride with you guys. I'm on this journey with you guys. I'm a fan of what you're doing. Totally support what you guys are doing. Believe in it, and will do my part to help promote it, push it real good.
Good.
Like the song says.
We need you.
I want to say can't remember how long ago. It was maybe a month or so ago. Dan, and your dad, Senator Dan's on. We're here. Great podcast, great information, talking the bill, some history, and then where we left off with that podcast is that there was this very cool event that happened 2 weekends ago. 2 weekends ago. That you, Senator Dan, hosted. I got to show up, had time to show up, and got to hear some very compelling stories, strong stories, bipartisan stories. If there is a time when I saw two sides truly get together and do their part, say their part to bring us in the middle, meet us halfway. I think that's all. I think anytime, everybody, that's all we really want to do. Just meet me halfway in life, and then let's go. The event. It was you share the event name, which it's a great event. But go ahead.
Well, you just reminded me of the story that came out today with Ellen DeGeneres and George Bush sitting at the Dallas Cowboy game, and she got on her show and she said, "We're friends."
She got a lot of grief from her.
She got a lot of grief.
Yeah.
But she also made a lot of people think.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's when we put this picnic together, it wasn't against just this one person, but it was the group that we formed was Restore Civility to Public Service. And we're not looking for a one-party rule because I believe that absolute power corrupts absolutely, just like we've been told. But I believe we need to get back to the middle and have civil debate. And that's what this party was about. It was not about Bashir or anybody running, but about the way that we have been governed and the leadership of our current administration. And to hear the dialogue and how he has come out against really good people and to disparage every teacher and people in the judiciary and some of the things he's come off with. I mean, you go into Frankfurt now and it's like going into Fort Knox because he got upset because the teachers exercised their constitutional rights to go and protest. And it was not like they were pounding, beating up stuff, but you ought to try to go into Frankfurt now. So we've realized this guy had 4 years, and we don't want to be represented that way. He's not even from Kentucky, and he comes in and makes us look like a bunch of idiots the way he's governed. He was voted the worst governor in America. And like I said, I'm not looking for a one-party rule. God forbid we have that, but we've got to get back to the middle and have civil debate. And that's what this was about. And we had bipartisan 250 people.
Yep.
And there were real stories. And these are real Kentuckians who are led by somebody who could care less about this state. We're just a stepping stone to Washington.
Yeah, not just stories, but some of those people were speaking from the heart.
Yes, they were.
I mean, it was an emotional moment. At times, some really strong, heartfelt stories. And again, it was both sides, just finding a way to.
Well, what moved me against this man was 4 years ago, almost at Fancy Farm. He looked down at a quadriplegic friend of mine who had been a quadriplegic for 20 years, and who had been told by his eye doctors here in Louisville that if he did not consume cannabis, he'll be blind from glaucoma in 1 year. Now, this is desperation for this quadriplegic. That's all he's got left is his eyesight.
Right.
And this man, Matt Bevin, while he was running for office, and we know how they all have their campaign game, but he looked down at him while he was in his wheelchair and he said, I promise I will fight for you. And he did nothing. He did absolutely nothing. He's not only that, but he's taken on a running mate who is totally against what, the cannabis, although he's in the CBD business. So the man's got to go. And that's why I'm upset with Bevin, because he lied to this fella and to the hundreds of thousands of Kentuckians who were looking to get out of this prohibition.
Was your dad pleased with the event?
He was happy. And one thing about Dad, he went out on a limb. And his legacy is out there. He's been a legislator for a long time. He's been a true conservative. He's still a conservative. But and I heard him today, he said after trying to get a Republican in the governor's office, I am so ashamed of what we have done, of the way he's led us. And he is. And one thing I told Dad, I said, Dad, legislators don't get their legacy is only if they've done something bad.
Right.
I said, but people are starting to remember you now for what you just did as a stand-up,
Right.
Real. This was real stuff. He's not been bought, and I have seen more positive comments in social media. We've had people even in his district try to disparage him, and it backfire on him. Because they would come back and say, "Hey, he did the right thing. This guy stood up for the real thing. He didn't play party politics." And and I am so proud of what he's done, and he's proud of this picnic too. So I'm proud of him, and I hope to extend his legacy.
You're on the right path. I think so. Kim, Kenny, again, thanks for coming and hanging out with me. Good seeing you all at the picnic. My Right to Decide. Very cool message. Great website, Facebook. I'll start with you, Kim. What is that all about?
My Right to Decide is really just, my term has been, we're a homegrown group that, no pun intended, but we see the benefit to full adult responsible use in Kentucky. I've been a consumer personally for roughly 42 years probably, and I've not gone crazy. I've raised some good kids, none of my kids are...
Well, you're a good person, so if you use it for 42 years, maybe that's a reason why you're a good person?
Sure, I'll attribute some of it to it, yeah. We do have an endocannabinoid system, and so if we look at it a little deeper than just my right as an American to choose, God put it on the earth, to be quite honest with you, if we want to dig deep. And He provided it for a reason. Everything He gave us was for a reason.
It needed to be fed, right?
Needed to be fed.
Yep.
The body, and if we think about the endocannabinoid system and it being a plant, if you go just think of a cow eating it for, to feed itself, and then we get the milk from the cow, then we benefit. Well, our laws have changed
circle of
everything.
life kind of thing?
Yeah.
That life cycle, yeah.
That's it. And so with My Right to Decide, what our goal is and what our hope is to help every Kentuckian see that this isn't a medical issue 100%. This is a choice issue, a freedom issue.
Right.
I'm not a criminal by any stretch of the word until we talk about cannabis.
Yeah.
And when we talk about cannabis, I am a criminal.
Technically.
Technically.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate as a...
I don't kiss and tell, just to say.
I've been fortunate, and I'll just spit it out there as a white woman. I've been pulled over a time or two, but never gone to jail. And now not for cannabis, more so for drinking, but still the same. That's not what other people's experience is.
Well, I'll challenge you. I don't think it's the same because no offense, and I'm glad things turn out the way they have.
For me.
Because I don't ever hear horror stories about people killing someone, getting behind the wheel high.
Right.
And, if their numbers are out there, they're either small or don't exist. But, you don't need to. I'm preaching to the choir there. But,
And there's a lot of people who cannabis does affect negatively. I do have some friends who've talked to me about cannabis and have wanted to try it for whatever reason. And when they have, it's kind of thrown them off the deep end, so to speak. And so,
in a bad way.
in a bad way, yeah.
So give me an example.
One friend told me about how he's tried to just let it relax him in his pain, try to help with his pain, and it changes him to where he's in a fetal position. He said he's in a fetal position in fear and shaken and scared. So I guess I'm hearing paranoia, so to speak. Okay. So to me,
Now, is that every time he tries it, or could that have been?
I think he said
his-
he's tried it twice,
Okay.
and both times it's
All right,
happened.
but could
now.
it have been more of the product? What's how someone had put this together, and the additives
or
or
the strain or something
yeah,
like that.
whatever. Yeah.
And see, and I even asked him, well, then I would suggest instead of smoking the whole joint, then only take a couple puffs off the joint, right?
Start out slow,
Yeah,
right?
I'd start going a little slower.
Yeah.
And
I
he,
made my mistake when I first ate a cookie.
I
I ate the whole cookie, and then it was. I'm telling my daughter, here's where all.
Oh no.
She's like, Dad, did you eat the cookie? I'm like, yeah, I don't feel anything. She's like, oh God. Well, I'm
Just
going
give
to
it a
ask you
while.
again in about an hour or so.
Yeah.
About an hour and a half later, I'm catatonic.
Yeah, ready to go to the emergency room.
I
The
wound
good
up
thing
going to the
about,
parking
the
lot to
good thing
sleep.
about cannabis and self-regulating is you get to self-regulate. You can take one draw, and
Right.
if that's an all you want. But if you take a pill, you're on
You're
a
done.
4-hour ride.
Exactly.
Or an edible.
Yeah, right.
And the good thing about that cannabidiol system she was talking about, it regulates the amount that you absorb. I mean, it keeps you from, I guess, technically dying from an overdose. I mean, it won't suppress your breathing and stuff to that effect, whereas opioids will, because our bodies were not designed to regulate opioids and stuff like it does cannabis.
That's a good point.
And I was just going to say, one of the reasons that I got involved with this was actually 3 reasons. One is my son, and he is 22 now, and he suffers from anxiety, severe anxiety. And so cannabis was the one thing he started using as a teenager. And I tried to be the good mom. No, you don't get to. He got grounded and all that fun stuff. And,
Well, there's kind of medical reasons too, from this,
yeah, feed the brain.
yeah.
Yeah, I keep reminding him he's still not fully developed.
But-
yet, so.
At the same time too,
It was safer because I did do the mom thing, tried to be the good mom and go through, counselors and medications and the whole gamut. And that medication really affected him in a negative way. Whether it messed with his stomach,
Right.
or it messed with his mind. When he smoked cannabis, he was able to control, just as Dan was mentioning, his amount that he needed. And so he knew how to handle that.
right.
He didn't like the medications the doctors gave him because, as Dan just said, when you take the pill, you're on the ride
Right.
until the ride's over. With cannabis, it's not that way. It's better regulated.
Good point.
And it might be scary to some people to think that you have to try this out. Instead of a doctor going to a doctor and a doctor says this is what you take and that's all you take. It may be scary to a lot of folks to think that I have to try this first. I have to basically be the guinea pig here. But the good thing about it is, like I said, cannabis. I mean, we are meant to absorb a certain amount of it, and our bodies will help us regulate it. So it's not quite like taking too much opioids because you're trying to get the right dosage.
No, that's a good point. One thing too, and I love this, the right to decide. But clearly, in deciding comes education. And I'm going to get to how
Definitely.
you all are going about doing this. But here's one thing I've always I've struggled with. When people, a lot of things people do is learn behavior. So when someone flat out lies to you about something, and then it turns out the person finds out they're lying, then it's like, well, what else are they lying about?
You've been discredited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, when people go, marijuana's bad for you, cocaine's bad for you, heroin's bad for you, all these other drugs are bad for you, and they go and try marijuana, and it's not bad for you. And then the kids or person would be like, what else are they lying about? Well, I think I'll go try some cocaine. Hey, Macy's lying about, or they're lying about the cocaine or
Exactly.
something else.
Absolutely.
And then shit happens.
Exactly.
So, and that's where education and the truth, the brutal truth, just tell the truth. But how are y'all going about the educational part?
That's what I love about my right to decide as well. And as a parent, my oldest is 30. We're going to be 30, close enough. And so, since I said I've been a consumer for 40 plus years, I was a consumer then.
I can do the math. I'm real good at math.
And so I remember raising Breezy as it wasn't anything. You know, it was just a normal part of life. And then with the babies, when I had the babies, David and Kiva, I don't know, things changed. And I thought, well, I don't want to live a double standard because I didn't want them to think it was okay.
Right.
And so I still didn't teach them. I quit for a little while, and so about 10 years probably. And so I didn't dog cannabis, so to speak. I didn't promote it, but I also educated them on it's not like heroin. It's not meth.
Right.
It's not drinking. It's not like drinking even. And I don't know. I'm pretty proud of my kids. I have 3 children that I've mothered, given birth to, and I have 2 stepchildren. All 5 of my kids are healthy. None of them are addicted to anything. We don't have babies we don't want. And so
How much of that, though, was you just being a straight shooter with them?
All of it
Of
is
course,
being a
that's what
straight
I'm saying.
shooter.
Yeah.
All of it is being
Yeah.
a straight shooter.
Yeah, and we actually have 4 children between my new wife and myself. We have 4 children, and you know, we're honest with them about what we are doing, and what we see from them is, you know, they don't want anything to do with this. You know, not necessarily that it's good or bad, but we've I guess reduced the stigma surrounding it.
Exactly.
So the curiosity is not there.
Tobacco use is down because of education, not because of criminalization.
Absolutely.
go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And education is big time, and we don't advocate it's a 21 and over. The biggest thing about my right to decide is the fact that I am 21 and over. I am a good person. I pay my taxes. I help people in my community. Now, I do know there are children who need it. So our bill is going to cover that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked as a football coach in middle school for 7 years, and the amount of Adderall that they give to our kids, and Adderall is nothing but crystal meth. It's the same thing. And I watched it for years, and it broke my heart. So I will not listen to these people. What if our kids get it? Well, if the kids do get it, they're not going to die because no one's ever died from it. And if you're so concerned about it, then you might want to check how many people you're giving this Adderall to. You know, we have teachers prescribing it, for God's sake. You know what I mean? Your kid screwed up, get him some Adderall. When really it's just you might not know how to deal with it.
Let's go back in history a little bit, because I think you've shared it with the previous podcast. For people who don't really know, where did the stigma, the bad about marijuana came from? You know, that was during the Prohibition there.
Harry
right?
Anslinger.
That was Harry Anslinger, and it was brought about first of all because cannabis was it was hemp,
Right.
and it was cutting into the profits of the DuPonts.
Yeah.
And they were growing. They had the paper mills, so
Right.
they had to find a way to get rid of it, and they knew they couldn't use profit as the catalyst, so they went to their buddy Harry Anslinger, who was our first drug czar, and he
Used
in
racism.
1937 he sponsored the Marijuana Tax Act, and his quote, his argument to our Congress, it said literally, There's 100,000 marijuana smokers in America, and they're Negroes, Latinos, Filipinos, and jazz musicians.
He played the race card.
And it makes the white women want to have sexual relations now with the black man. And you think about that, and then not only that, but the doctors, they were prescribing cannabis.
Yeah.
That's the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
But they adopted the word marijuana because that's the Spanish Mexican term for cannabis. It sounded more Mexican,
Yeah.
which is dirty.
Yeah.
We hated them brown Mexicans and we hated the black man, so we put it all on them.
Yeah.
We put it all on them, and I swear to this day that black America is built into that prohibition. And that's why we have 4 times nationally.
We do a good job of incarcerating young
Yes.
black men.
And I've seen it. I've seen it personally.
Yeah, it's
That's
hard-
changing.
Yeah,
That's changing.
It's hard to believe we were a racist society at one time, right?
Yeah.
Well,
And it led to stuff like this.
I still think it lingers on still, but you know.
But that was the
Absolutely.
reason marijuana was a cannabis, and not for health. Doctors, it was in the PDRs till 1942, and doctors were saying, "No, Anslinger, don't do this. We're prescribing this successfully." Now what do we have? A bunch of drug addicts on stuff that's done in a petri dish that's making big pharma millions and billions of dollars
Yep.
and ruining our people.
So
And our
the root
communities,
of
yeah.
all evil was Harry Anslinger, right?
Yep.
Got
Well, the
it.
root of all evil was money and control.
That too. Yeah.
Greed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
greed ultimately.
Greed,
Yeah.
and it could have
And
been
it's still,
anybody. Greed and bigotry and racism.
How many states right now is full legalization?
11.
11.
Yep.
And then how many are medicinal?
33.
Plus DC.
And so what our
Plus
hope
Florida, yeah, plus DC.
So
what
you-
our hope is that what we've been told in regards to the medical community and the medical bill is that we need to take baby steps. That's what everybody keeps saying. We need to take baby steps. We
when
need
did
to
those
go
baby
with
steps
medical.
first start?
Well, I guess the
Almost
medical
a decade.
program.
Yeah.
10 years ago when
Yeah.
I hit Frankfurt.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I was gonna say.
the medical program is their baby steps, but in all reality, Kentucky's got big boy problems. So we don't need baby steps. We need big boy steps, and we need to move in a big way, not a
Yeah.
little way.
Yeah, we need to
And-
leap out front and,
Yeah.
and show them that this could be done.
And it's happened enough throughout the United States, 33 states. Okay, 11 of them have known and seen that medical's not enough.
Right.
My son won't be on a list. There's going to be a short list for the medical bill. And many people are not going to be included.
Right.
Our heart, my heart, and my involvement with my right to decide is because I see the whole Commonwealth needing to benefit from this change. And that's where
It's nothing political.
it's nothing
No, it's
political.
not.
I mean, people's lives can change.
Right.
Parents should not be separated from their children. No child should be raised by one parent. And in the event that they have to,
You're
Or-
talking
or-
about because of
because of cannabis and being locked
Locked
up,
up, right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, or the
being
court
locked up.
system. They
And-
shouldn't be raised by the court system or
yeah, that too.
Yeah.
We'll have
And
child determinations, custody determinations because
Yeah.
of it.
no one should be judged truthfully over cannabis.
No.
I mean, I feel like I'm sitting proof that, you can live a functional life. You can raise healthy children. Do my children struggle? Do we struggle? Welcome to the real world. We all struggle,
Not because of that.
It's
though.
not because of that,
Yeah.
right? And that's where I see my right to decide. Us reaching out and speaking to the average person and saying, this is a choice that we should be allowed and we need your help. I mean,
How are you going about that though? Are you
Well-
doing these besides like obviously social media and the website? Great information, but are you all going to
we're trying to go out into the community.
And this is what this is too. I'm giving
Yeah,
you.
it takes people, it takes money. And one thing about the cannabis community in my short term of helping, I mean, Dan's been doing it for 10 years plus. I'm 2 years, I think, since my husband passed away. And so, so my time, what I've seen is people don't like to help donate. They don't donate. They don't want to help. And unfortunately, nothing is free. No matter what, nothing is free. And so what our goal is and our hope is to get out into the communities and to reach out to people and say, we need that doctor in your community to stand up and say, yes, my patients would benefit. We need the attorney to stand up and say, I know what to do to help us reach
You bring up a
place.
good point, though. How much, and let's
The
just keep it
attorney,
real.
You know,
How much are doctors being influenced by Big Pharma?
probably more than we want to know, but I feel like
Is
there
it?
are doctors
I
coming
mean,
around.
Okay.
Yeah, we
They're
actually.
scared,
Yeah,
aren't they?
yeah. Some of
I
us
don't
went.
know.
Yeah, some of us went to a medical marijuana convention a couple weeks ago that was full of doctors,
Really?
nurses,
Okay.
practitioners, and all that
Local
stuff.
or
It was in Lexington.
Okay. Okay.
And the general consensus out there was that doctors just don't want to be responsible in dosing and stuff to that effect. They want legalization, or they won't stand in the way of legalization.
Right, but-
they don't want to be responsible for this. It's not that they're against this.
Okay.
They just don't want to be responsible.
As in responsible, as in prescribing, or
Yeah,
I mean,
which they can't prescribe anyways. It's got to be a recommendation.
well, no, but once even from a medicinal, they can't prescribe.
Because
No,
it's
because of
federally
federal. Yeah.
illegal.
Now there is out in the west coast, whatever District 9 or whatever that's considered. I don't know all that legal language, but they actually have some court cases that they've had that basically allows doctors to recommend. Now, once we figure out how we're going to allow doctors to recommend without, them losing their DEA
just
license or
fallout,
number or
any type
whatever
of
that other
fallout,
stuff, I think more and more will come on board with it.
Mm.
And to be honest with you, going back to my 40 plus years, I don't really need a doctor.
No, you don't.
I know exactly what I need.
Yeah,
and
I've
I know
heard that
exactly what I
number
need
a
to
few
do.
times. Kim, you look good. You look great. Or just saying. All right, we get that out.
That's what I was
All
waiting
right, you're
for.
waiting
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Yeah.
It took you
Could-
long enough.
Could I kind of add to the the length of time that we've all been advocating? One of the big things we've heard in Frankfurt and all across the state, really, from council members and stuff, is that basically we want to learn. Originally, we want to learn from the other states.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure we don't make the same mistakes as those other states made. And we think we've done that. We think we've learned, and we've got an excellent bill.
I was gonna say for some of these states, how long have they been in play?
Since
Colorado?
2008, is that right?
So we're talking over 10
96.
years.
Actually, California did
California's
96.
way longer.
Yeah,
Really?
way longer.
Oh yeah.
Full
I got a timeline over there if you want to give it to
on the California, they've been full legalization.
96.
No,
They started
96.
medical 90. I could
I
get
was
the
gonna-
timeline.
but I guess my point is that there's been enough
Evidence.
states.
no,
Evidence. That's a
and
good word.
here's one thing too. No state that has regulated cannabis has rescinded.
Yeah.
That was one of my
Exactly.
questions. Has no reverse
No,
course?
no.
Not, to say full legalization, then they backed off the, I guess at that time, recreation, whatever. But,
But you know what they have done? They went medical first, and they realized
Right.
that they've created more problems, and they had to fix those problems by going full adult responsible use.
which is why Kentucky just needs to quit playing the
yes.
stupid game,
Yeah.
and let's just really start doing some business here.
Yeah.
Let's get it going.
well,
Let's do it right.
great segue. The business. It is a business.
It is a business.
It's a booming business for these states. I've heard the stories. You all can tell me.
He's
We're
the
talking
numbers
billions of dollars for a
Yeah.
lot of these states. Go
To give you an example, since Colorado went with responsible use, they basically raked in $927 million in taxes. Just last year alone, the economic impact was $1.55 billion in direct cannabis sales. That's not counting the plumbers,
Ancillary.
the ancillary jobs, the
Yeah.
security systems, the extra law enforcement's income and stuff like that. That's just direct sales of cannabis. And we could be doing that. We're only roughly a little over a million less folks in Kentucky than in Colorado. We can do numbers like that.
I have to ask, and any of y'all can jump in. I'm not the most religious person, but really, where do the hardcore and evangelicals stand with cannabis?
They're killing us.
Yeah.
They're thinking it's a devil weed. I've done town halls and literally had resolutions done in Bullitt County. And there's this fella he's a self-professed
We won't name
pastor
names.
to the politicians. And he followed me. And he would take in this propaganda
You mean followed you to a location?
He would follow me
To
from
an
where
event.
from where a fiscal court. Like, let's say I went to the fiscal court.
Yeah.
I got a resolution done.
Yeah.
He would come in
behind.
2 weeks later, and they rescinded it because of the propaganda he was putting out. And I don't, and I went to this dude, and I said, buddy, you got a fight on your hands because you're hurting a lot of people. And I told him, I said, you're so heavenly minded, you're no earthly good.
Great line.
And it is, and we're getting a lot of flack from the religious right. But the thing, the reason why is because they don't know, they don't have the education.
Learn behavior. That's what it is.
It is.
Yeah.
And they're not the only ones that's been propagandized.
Who else did we talk?
The police officers
Police?
have been propagandized.
Really?
Everybody's been propagandized for 80 years.
I would think the police would be like, honestly, because here in Louisville they changed the law or
Yeah,
or
we
whatever.
Yeah, our group was part of that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That-
LLEPO.
What is this?
Ounce.
Whatever. I have to admit, I've got a few cop friends, and they were quite okay with that rule.
Were or were not?
Because it was like
Waste of their time.
waste of their time.
And they
Absolutely.
and we took a retired LMPD.
And their time, not just arresting, but the whole process.
Yeah.
Appearing, whatever.
Yep.
We took a retired cop out to Denver, and we met with the mayor, we met with the chief of police, cops, we met with care tenders, we met with growers, we met with patients, and I took him through grow operations, and he come back to say that the sky hasn't fallen. But one thing he does say to all of his comrades, said, guys, that when we get called on a domestic violence, marijuana is never involved. It's always alcohol. They know. They know. But the problem is, you'll get, and he'll say, that the veterans, they'll take the pot and throw it away. It's the young guys coming in to save the world, the Rambos.
Yeah, because
we
they
need to
Following
take
the
that
rules.
tool away.
Yeah, they look at it as it's against the law.
It's against the law.
We're going to enforce it.
And we've got a chief of police out in another county, close to us. I won't say his name, but if it's against the
Not
law,
naming names.
you're going to jail.
Yeah. Even though there's plenty of laws on the books
Yeah.
right now that are not enforced because they're ridiculous or they're unjust, this is just an easy law to manipulate your rights, basically to, all they got to do is say they smell
Kind of
weed or
profiling.
smell marijuana. And the profiling side of it too is a big issue. To enter your person, to enter your car, to enter your home. It's just an easy law to walk all over
That's a good point.
your rights.
Right. Getting back to my right to decide, I'm looking at the tabs on the webpage. Kim, how can people help?
The way that they can help is really reaching out to, we'd love for them to go to our website and fill out our little form because we've got,
MyRightToDecide.com.
and include their county. Because what our hope is and our goal is to be able to build, so to speak, an army to reach out to as legislation begins. We've got so many legislators that are against this movement that we really need people in each county to reach out to them personally and say, we support this. We need you to speak, represent our voice. And our voice is that we support the choice. You don't even have to consume. I mean, I was shocked as all get out when my mom, who is a very strong Republican woman, Baptist all the way, okay?
MAGA.
Yes, MAGA.
Although,
But I gotta give her kudos and give her props because as I stayed with her for 3 months, I had to stay with her for her to help me a little bit for 3 months after a wreck, and so she got to hear me and get to know me a little bit better as an adult person. And after that time frame, I can say that my mom has supported full adult legalization ever since then. So she's contacted Tipton, Representative Tipton, in support, and Tipton's not a supporter. She's got Seum as her, so go Seum, right? I'm a fan.
Okay.
And so is she. So people, it's just about showing who we are. I mean, and gaining the support. We just need people to stand up and say, I don't have to consume, but I'm okay with your right to. I don't believe you should be locked up. So how they can help is by registering on our website so we can reach back out to them as we get moving. We need help in regards to, it's just a small few of us who are trying to do many things, and we're each limited in our knowledge. So in order to make a good organization stronger, we need solid help, getting the message out.
And we actually have a tab on there for people to fill out that if they want us to come to their community, it kind of sets out the guidelines that, we need a facility, of course. It tells them that they need to contact their local legislators or local council members and stuff to that effect. So, if we can get them to fill that out and we could come educate their community, that's kind of how we're bringing everybody
One of the
together.
things,
Statewide?
too-
Are we going? Statewide?
It's a
Yeah.
statewide
Statewide.
initiative.
Yeah.
And one of the things is to embolden people to
Yes.
finally
Please.
stand up and say, it's my right to decide yes or no. It's his right to decide. This oppression, this
Break the stereotype.
barbaric prohibition. A lot of them are so ignorant to why it's even illegal. If they just heard why it's illegal,
Yeah.
oh no, this has got to go. And it's education. Like I said, we've been propagandized for 80 years, and it's been a good one. We've got this gateway theory we're having to deal with, and that's starting to get through to people because I'm convinced that the gateway is not cannabis or anything but poverty, abuse, where you're at in society, loneliness, heartbroken. I mean, I think that's, and cannabis don't kill that worm inside sometimes. That's why they go to deeper things. Let's start dealing with the core issues, what's hurting our people, and quit labeling them as drug addicts and then
And
putting them
locking
in the
them up.
penitentiary for it, or in jail. That's happened to me. So my right to decide is to empower
You've
people.
lived it.
I've lived it.
Yeah.
And I've seen people literally go through hell in prison, and their only charge was having cannabis, and they were literally, it's, their lives ruined. I've seen it.
Over a plant.
Over a plant that's never killed anyone. One of the other things too is, if you was gay and you come out of the closet, it was okay because you weren't going to jail. If you come out of the closet with cannabis, you risk losing your job and everything. And so it's so hard to get these people out of the closet and say it's okay to say cannabis is not bad, it's good.
Yeah, you risk
And-
losing your job, your
it's
children.
your children, everything.
Everything,
So
yeah.
it's a tough, and in Kentucky, conservative Kentucky, every state that's gone legal, the people got to speak. We don't get to. We don't get to vote on any issues.
And we know by the polls that have been conducted, we know Kentuckians want this. It's upwards of 85% approval for cannabis reform.
All right.
We know Kentucky is ready
And
for
it's
this.
empowering the people to say, you know what, it's time. Enough's enough.
Right.
I don't smoke it. I don't use it. But you're wrong for denying these people. And we know that it's not killing nobody. I've got too many kids. We know people that have kids that they know they're not bad.
Yeah.
They know they're not bad, but they know they smoke it or whatever. So it's finally, we've got to get the people empowered to get up and say, hey, you got to do something.
Well, we've got November 5th coming up. So I'm curious, how much?
Your
how-
vote is your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's. I'm trying to
And
figure out the
here's
best.
the thing too. Not only is your vote is one voice.
Yeah.
One. That's a good
For
point.
many years, I was never able to vote because of my convictions, right? And I didn't have the right to, but I could create
Influence.
a whole lot more votes.
Absolutely.
And it's not, we got to get out and we got to let people know it's okay to say cannabis. It's okay to say marijuana. It's okay. It's not bad. And you
Right.
got to tell others. You got to tell the church. You got to tell your mom. You got to tell, it's not bad.
And
You know-
and the more you talk, the more you realize the people in your community, the people around you, your family members, your friends, they'll support you. You just got to start the conversation.
Yeah. And they did. But there's so much fear because of what the government's done. They'll take your assets, they'll take your kids, they'll take your jobs, you know, and people are, and I keep telling the people, folks, you're good people. You're not supposed to fear your government like this. You're good people. And we are the people, not they are the people.
Right.
And trying to get that instilled, a lot of them has just said, screw civics. Screw this. These freaking hypocrites are sucking bourbon all day and glamorizing it all day, but they're going to put me in jail for marijuana. Screw them. I'm just going to hide back with my joint, get away from society, you know, and then what
Well, I
happens?
was that person. Again, until the accident happened in 16, I was just a quiet. I voted at general elections only, just for the presidency. After that, things changed. I got involved with politics, and I'm glad I did, because there's so much that I have ignored that maybe I've been a part of why things are so bad.
That's a good point. And I have to admit, I did not engage myself into these types of conversations when I
me
was
neither.
younger. I always looked kind of big picture, which
Yeah.
was the president.
The presidency.
And I just thought everything else just kind of fell into place. Now I've come to realize in the last few years
all
that,
those little bitty
good
steps.
God, how the
Yeah,
I mean,
you're
now I
local.
appreciate a lot more on your role, your journey, your dad's. My God, let's do this. Take me through two scenarios. November 5th, should Bevan win? What is your plan moving forward from there? If he loses, what is your plan? I mean, is it the same, or is it?
Our plan is my right to decide.
And we're going to push forward
We
with that
keep
Our
message.
moving.
plan is the
Yeah.
Adult Responsible Use Act
We keep moving.
and selling it.
No.
Now, Bevan has said that in no way while I'm governor will he legalize
What is Bashir's official? Assuming I'm just throwing it.
Medical, I think, only.
Just- yeah, that's what I
but,
thought.
But Bevan just beat him up in the campaign in the last debate on that. Because, and I've told Bashir, and I'm not ashamed to say this. I've told him, if the cannabis community will carry 10% of the vote statewide, we believe that. But if you fracture it, then you're not going to get that 10%, and they're going to go to somebody who's not going to fracture it. Now, Bevan has said, if a Republican medical bill comes across my desk, I'll sign it.
Liar.
Okay. Now what he did the other day at the debate was Bashir said, well, we can use this medical marijuana to help with the pension, and Bevan said, how dare you try to tax the patients?
That's a lack of understanding where we're at.
Okay, now what Bevan did was, we're not going to tax medical marijuana patients. You're going to have to tax medical marijuana patients to make the program work.
Yeah, of course.
But here's
To
what the
make
problem is
You-
on the
you
medical.
have to. I mean-
here's what and I'm going to make a lot of people mad at me.
Really?
As if,
You are?
as if.
What they've done, for one thing, it's going to take 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get the medical program working.
After it passes.
After it passes,
I've heard 2023 is the
it's going to
really.
take 2. Well, they've come out and said 2 years.
Okay.
And that's and
Minimum.
I'm telling you, it's going to
So
take more.
Yeah.
it's going to take. Yeah, because that's somewhere I read that it's probably, if it does pass,
They've got
it'll
to
be
get
about 20.
doctors on board. They've got to do. You know, and our bill strips that. You're done. You know.
21 years and older, year later, after it passes, you'll be able to consume.
And then what they're
Yeah.
going to do is they're going to qualify symptoms. Only certain people with certain symptoms are going to get that.
Right.
Now that means only those certain people are going to carry the debt of this entire program.
got you, yeah.
Because they're going to disenfranchise, first of all, they're going to disenfranchise 90% of the cannabis community.
Yeah.
Then they're going to take away half or 3/4 of the qualifying patients. And the ones that did qualify, how much do you think their medicine's going to cost them?
That's a good point.
And we've got fellas up there, we got guys that I grew this group that's involved in this medical marijuana thing, and I fought this issue, I fought this, and they're falling for it, and the reason why is they are so desperate for anything, for anything. And one thing my
But-
dad told me, he said, Dan, don't ever write a bill that you're not willing to walk away from. And this bill that they're doing, first of all, no home grows, so the poor guy can't grow his own, although you can brew 100 gallons of frickin' booze every year.
No smoke.
Moonshine.
Yeah, no smoke.
No smoking.
Yeah.
You can't smoke it. You know, you're only going to get vape, and just and only certain people are going to qualify. Now,
Very
here's what
strict
kills
list.
me. I worked on this with this group and helped build this group for 7 years. I suffer with gout and rheumatoid arthritis.
Chronic pain.
They took my symptoms out.
Yeah, chronic pain. They
They
eliminated.
took arthritis out. And I'm saying, you know what? Screw this. I'm tired of trying to explain the molecular structure of a cannabinoid to a bunch of whoever decided to
That
get
was
elected.
well said.
You know, it is.
Molecular struggle.
Yeah, that's what they're making us do in this medical marijuana argument, you know, and we're hearing more and more from doctors and everything. Just make it legal. We don't, nobody even knows they can't define medical marijuana anyway.
Yeah.
It's
Well-
all medicinal.
Cannabis is cannabis.
Period.
The plant is the
Right here.
plant.
Right.
And
There's
long
not a
ago-
medical plant and a non-medical plant.
Yeah.
I mean, cannabis is cannabis. So the medical term is just another way to control.
Yeah, you've got on here one of the bullet points in helping end the prohibition, growth in retail, manufacturing, and tourism.
Yes.
In line with what is the tour? You're just saying because it would be a full legalized state that people will come to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And-
When we've got the Derby, okay, we've got
the Bourbon
booze,
Trail
we've
and
got the
everything.
Bourbon Trail. Just add cannabis to it, and you reach
Okay.
so many other
right.
people. You just open up another avenue.
Worldwide, we're known for
Yeah.
our Kentucky Blue.
Of course.
And you know, a lot of
And-
people go to Colorado just to tour the dispensaries and the grow facilities and stuff to that effect. So you drop those right around the Bourbon Trail and stuff to that
Good
effect.
point.
You're going
Just
to draw a
roll
lot of
it
people.
in.
Very good point.
Yeah.
There's already huge hemp farms in the state, right?
Yes.
How are they able to do that? I mean,
Well, thank God they're starting to put resources more towards the fiber, because what's happened is the influx of CBD has just
Good
really
God.
taken over.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
the
like- that's
CBD,
like-
CBD.
it's like Starbucks. It's it's a
It is.
different.
It's like
It is.
cigarettes.
Yeah.
There's so
I
many
mean,
to
It's
choose from.
losing its luster.
Yeah.
Is it though?
It is.
How
we've,
so?
We've
Becau-
got good friends that's closing shops, and what's happening is people that are taking only CBD
Yeah.
are testing positive for THC.
Because it's still what 3%,
0.3%.
And,
And
it
it-
builds up in your fatty
Yeah.
cells.
and it builds up, and it sticks
I've had-
around for how long?
days.
Well, it
30 to
depends
60.
on the fatty material. I mean, how big you are and stuff.
Yeah. Skinnier
CBD
person,
is
not-
good, and I'm not saying it's not. People are swearing by it, but
I've heard the stories.
yeah, and it's good. It's great. But I can't help but think that a lot of it is because there is that 0.3% THC, and they are
Yeah.
getting a part. Now, here's what's really funny, is one of the biggest canna industries have gotten UK to develop this strain.
Is in University of Kentucky.
The University of Kentucky developed this strain that has 0% THC. They patented it,
Really?
right? Now, what's going to happen? You won't, and I'm just saying that, not for a fact, but you're going to be required, because of that 0.3 THC and all that, you're required to buy that
seed,
seed
yeah.
only.
Which goes back to just my right to decide in full adult responsible legalization. It eliminates all of that confusion. It eliminates all of the hoops and the ridiculous regulation. Monopolizing. It opens up and it saves the hemp farmer, because we're not against hemp.
No.
And we are for any agriculture that'll benefit our state and benefit our people. And I don't know numbers, it's not my thing, but I do know that I read an article that we are first like number one in growing, and we are number one in exports. Okay, so back to the tourism, that just kind of leads back to that. We're already doing it. We're just doing it either illegally, or we're not making the money off of it. Is we're not making the money off of it. But in regards to the hemp industry, it would alleviate them from this whole .03 thing, and open up the door to where they don't waste crop. You know, if they're over the .03, is that what it is?
They have to burn it.
Yeah, they have to burn it. Now, what kind of waste is that? It's just ridiculous. And we're supposed to have businessmen and women up there making decisions on our lives, and there's not very smart decision making going on.
No, this industry is here. It's built itself because the people want this. You know, common sense would tell you that, you know, if the business is there, just take advantage of it. Don't restrict it. Don't change it. If you want to make money off of it, regulate it.
Yeah.
You know, bring the money on top of the table. You know, tax it.
But you know, and I have fought this for so long, but I just, you know, the money's one thing, and you know, money's good and all that, but we're locking people up for this.
Yes.
We're ruining their lives.
Yes.
We're ruining their life. Try to get a job with a marijuana conviction. Try to get a Pell Grant with a marijuana conviction. That to me means more than any medical bill. What do you do to this kid that got raped in prison because he got caught with marijuana? What kind of medical situation is he in for the rest of his life?
And
You know?
even going back to the medicinal side of it, I had said there's 3 reasons why I'm involved in this and got involved in this. My late husband, Tony, was airborne, 82nd Airborne veteran.
Sir.
And he was injured in the military. So he had a service-related injury. He received 20% disability, I think it was, and medication. So they had him on morphine. He liked smoking cannabis. It actually would make him smile. I mean, he was always so stern and, you know, one of them men, whatever. But
It didn't strip him of feelings, right?
yeah,
Like opioids do.
It didn't strip him of feelings. He would be able, he'd take a little puff with me here and there, and he'd giggle and laugh and, you know, be happy. But yet he got a new VA doctor. It was a whole new doctor. So they changed his whole deal up. Boy, he came in dirty one day.
And they couldn't. Yeah.
And she told him straight up, if you come in here dirty again, I will cut you off of everything. You are done. And he couldn't afford to do that. He was a hard-working tree climbing guy. He took care of us. And so he couldn't afford that. But it changed who he was. It helped him. Cannabis helped him. His PTSD, you know, he wasn't a wartime vet, but that doesn't mean that things didn't happen in the military that, you know, were very devastating. And so it helped with his PTSD, yet he was struck with, you know, you either stick with the morphine only, you know, he didn't have the choice, which goes back
And
to
we've heard
my
the
right
horror
to
stories of
decide.
people being addicted to stuff like that.
Yes.
And unfortunately our system is set up to force people into that, you know, addiction.
fail.
Yeah, to fail. I mean, you're forced to consume the opioids, or you know, you lose that.
It comes back to money.
I don't know if I told you
Yeah.
about the story. A personal friend of mine, a good friend, a Vietnam vet, and tunnel rat. If you know anything about, well, they had to. It was the worst of the worst. They were the first ones to see it, and we had him testify in front of committee in Frankfurt. And he's been honored before in Frankfurt for putting up memorials throughout the state for how my dad's helped him. And he was talking about, he said, when he wakes up at 3:30 in the morning, and this is when he starts to break down, and you can see it well up in his face. He says, and Rodney, he's being shot, and my other comrade, his body parts are blown up, and there's enemies in the tree, and he said, before I can realize that it's just a nightmare, I can go to my pipe and take a couple draws. He said, then I can go back and get rest, and then I get up in the morning and I go help people. Now, veterans we've taught our veterans to be strong and stoic, and they will not go to a doctor and say, I'm broken. They just want to go get a bag of weed and smoke it to help with them freaking nightmares. And Danny's up there saying, it's just a plant. If it's helping us, why not? And they won't move. They won't move. And I'm trying to get the people just please get up off your asses. If you're not into anything civic at all, get on this one, because this is the biggest crisis, humanitarian crisis there ever is. They're locking people up for the wrong reasons, and these people are just trying to help themselves. This is, get off your asses and start doing something about this, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and our legislators have heard stories like that year after year for nearly a decade.
And it's not moved them.
They are not moving on medical marijuana. So, I mean, we need the community support. We need them to go to our Facebook page. We need them to reach out so we can help educate Kentucky on the importance of calling your legislators, telling them that you want legalization. I mean, we need people to help move this forward, because the legislators just are not doing it.
Of every economic
Background
and status. I mean, we really do need the professionals to step up and help us bring change. Some of them know. Now, some of them think they're doing us a favor by you had asked about the Christian community, religious community, I probably should say. In all fairness, I think that they think that they're doing us a favor that we don't know. Okay, in all honesty, I had a conversation with my son, and it was really about abortion, which is completely off our topic here. But he had said to me, and if you don't mind me sharing, he said, so the creator of the world, God, doesn't force himself on you. He won't manipulate you. He can, but he won't manipulate you to do what he wants you to do. He'll let you choose free will. I said, yes, that is our God. He will let us choose free will. And he said, so then where is it your right to make the choice for me, what I do, if the creator of the heavens and the earth won't even do it? And so that made, I mean, my head went, pooh, okay? It made
if
sense.
you buy into that notion.
Theory, yes.
Yeah.
If that's where your faith and your belief is. And so we need people to stand up and say, I'm not going to judge this on someone else. I'm going to give them the right to decide. It's, what's good for me isn't necessarily good for you.
Right.
And we need people of all the way across the board, poor, rich, the attorney, the cop, the doctor, all of us need to come together.
Yeah, and we
to
are
make change.
I mean, we're seeing a lot of people, like, you brought up the city of Louisville a few minutes ago. The county attorney came out and said they would not prosecute for just cannabis possession. And once you start talking to your community or talking to your decision makers in your community,
that was huge.
You will find,
that's
absolutely,
huge, right?
Yeah.
You will find that a lot of them are in support, but you have to go to them and you have to start the conversation.
Yeah.
Man, that's the biggest thing is, the old man, he says, there's few leaders. Everybody's looking for a leader to go ahead and do this because they're either afraid, intimidated, or, for whatever reason. But what I'm saying is get behind this group. We'll lead it. We've got legislators that'll lead us in. When we did our helmet law, it took us 10 years. I've been riding Harleys for over 40 years. And it took us 10 years on the helmet law. And for the first 8 years, we fought the medical community. But when we come out with my right to decide, which is why we transferred this to the cannabis issue, we won.
Yep.
Gotcha.
There was
won.
money too.
Yeah.
And we've got to figure out the money side of things, because that really is what's hindering us somehow. And I don't know how to fix that, which is where I think if us as a people could come together.
Yeah. And Dan just brought up the helmet issue. A lot of folks are concerned about driving under the influence and stuff to that effect after legalization. But the numbers just don't support that's going to happen. And for instance, I brought up Colorado, and we're only a little bit less than 1 million folks difference between us and Colorado. The state of Kentucky has seen 117 more fatalities this year or last year than the state of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the numbers basically show that there's a 5% decrease in THC impairment basically in Colorado over the past year. So
Here's the thing. I'm a drinker.
yeah.
I'd rather be high than drunk.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd rather,
I can function high. I can't function drunk.
Yeah.
Call it a day if I start drinking.
Yeah.
It's over.
And not everybody's like that.
Yeah,
But,
and not
we're
everybody.
not
And I get
saying
that.
that
Yeah.
just because you're legalizing cannabis, you're going to have a bunch of people out there
But
driving.
it's
driving high.
it's a potential game changer for for a state.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got to wrap this up. Share with everyone your all social media, the website, and
Do we have a second to just
No,
kind of go
go.
over what's in the
We're
bill
good.
real quick?
Please.
Basically, through 4 things that's in our bill. We have 21 years and older can grow, consume, and possess if this is passed. We have an automatic expungement clause, basically for non-violent marijuana offenders.
Real good.
Basically, it automatically expunges their records. We have a medical clause allowing doctors the option to discuss and recommend cannabis for folks of any age. This is a 21 and over bill, but we want to make sure everybody's included.
Good.
And then we also have a minority clause that will provide low interest loans to impoverished folks so they basically can have a chance to get
to
into
give
the
back.
industry.
You're giving
Correct.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
We care about Kentucky. We care
Absolutely.
about the Commonwealth and the people of the Commonwealth, and we want to see everybody
This is not for
benefit.
selfish reasons.
No.
No, clearly.
No, and
No.
if we are truly a commonwealth, that's the way we need to look
That's
at
the
this.
way.
We're
Well,
helping everyone out.
Other than I don't want to be a criminal, so that's
Yeah.
about as personal
Yeah, but
as
if you
it
would,
gets.
if you are,
Uh-huh.
you'd be a smooth. criminal.
Absolutely.
Whoa.
Dan, final word.
Final word is get involved. Legislative session comes up January. Know who your legislator is. Talk to other people. We've got my right to decide is everyone's right to decide. You don't have to have breast cancer to wear a pink ribbon. You don't have to consume cannabis to support my right to decide. So please get involved. And the name of our bill will be the Adult Responsible Use Act. Now, we hope it will be Senate Bill 80. We're trying to reserve the number. But the name of the bill will be the Adult Responsible Use Act. So please look for that. If you follow us on Facebook and our website, we will keep you well informed. But please just get involved. I'm not asking you to take it full time, but start talking to others about cannabis and help us get this passed.
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, this is something that I truly support. So people who watching the show, this is probably one of these podcasts that I will kind of pleasantly and not so painfully shove down your throat. So,
And that's the big thing. We'd love for people, because sometimes I get a little tired of talking cannabis in a way.
yeah.
But until they change the law, I ain't quit. I'm not
Right.
going to stop.
And with social media, you don't actually have to be admin of the page to help sponsor,
True.
like your podcast or a page or something. You can literally pay to sponsor someone's page, and that will help get the word out also.
Absolutely. Great stuff.
Thank you, sir.
And
Thank you.
I've got, Tom? Is that Tom?
Tom.
Next week.
No, I think actually it's in November. I think so.
Oh,
Think-
y'all
is
move it.
Oh,
Think.
okay.
Well, I don't know. I got to look. But
All right.
Tom is
He's
strong.
coming up,
yeah.
yeah.
So I got
He
to
knows
meet
his
him at
stuff.
the picnic. So thanks, guys, for hanging out.
Thank you.
Thank
Kevin,
you.
I want to thank you because not too many people will bring this up. You could walk out here and have that fear that, wow, I talked about marijuana, they're going to get me. Thank you
For coming out of the closet.
Coming out of the closet, yeah, and doing
I was
what
a,
you're
I
doing.
was a late bloomer to it, but I know the rewards too.
Yeah.
So
Well, be part of the solution, man.
exactly,
Yeah.
good stuff, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Sure
right.
appreciate it.